In 1942, America was facing a great test. The world was at war, and a generation of young men and women heard the call to serve. My great-grandfather was one of them. He was just a young man, but he knew he had a duty to his country. He made a decision that would change his life forever. He chose to join the United States Marine Corps. This was not an easy choice. The Marines were known for their toughness and their commitment to being the first to fight. He understood the risks, but he also understood the importance of standing up for freedom. His journey began not with a rifle in hand, but with a commitment in his heart. After the rigors of boot camp, where boys were forged into men, he was given a special job. He was assigned to be a signalman. In an era before the instant communication we know today, this role was absolutely critical. A signalman was the lifeline of the battlefield. They were the ones who made sure that commanders could talk to their troops, that ships could coordinate with soldiers on the shore, and that vital information could get through, no matter the chaos of battle. It was a job that required incredible skill, unwavering focus, and a steady hand under the most intense pressure imaginable. He learned to master the tools of his trade, from flags and signal lamps to the complex codes that kept their messages secret from the enemy. The job of a signalman was one of the most dangerous on the front lines. They couldn't hide in a foxhole and wait for the fighting to stop. They had to be out in the open, often on high ground, to send and receive messages. This made them a prime target for enemy snipers and artillery. A signalman with his flags or lamp was a beacon, not just for his fellow Marines, but for the enemy as well. They carried the weight of their unit's survival on their shoulders. A missed signal or a misunderstood message could lead to disaster. It could mean reinforcements not arriving, supplies being sent to the wrong place, or an attack failing before it even began. My great-grandfather accepted this dangerous duty with the quiet resolve that would define his service. He joined the legendary 1st Marine Division, a unit that would find itself at the very tip of the spear in the Pacific Theater. He and his fellow signalmen were the nervous system of the division, a small group of specialists responsible for keeping the entire body connected and functioning. They knew that their friends in the infantry, artillery, and support units depended on them completely. They trained endlessly, preparing for the unimaginable challenges that lay ahead on distant, unknown islands. They were ready to do their part, no matter the cost. The first test came in the dense, suffocating jungles of New Guinea. This was a brutal introduction to combat, a world away from the training grounds in America. The heat was relentless, the terrain was unforgiving, and the enemy was skilled and determined. Here, my great-grandfather and his unit learned the hard lessons of war. Communication was a constant struggle against the elements and the enemy. Lines would be cut by artillery, and the thick jungle canopy made visual signaling nearly impossible at times. They had to be creative and courageous, often moving through enemy territory just to establish a connection. Every message sent was a small victory against the chaos. From the jungles, they moved to the rain-soaked shores of Cape Gloucester. The fighting here was just as fierce, but now it was combined with a constant, miserable downpour that turned the ground into a sea of mud. For a signalman, this was a special kind of hell. Equipment had to be protected from the moisture, and visibility was often reduced to just a few yards. Yet, the need for communication never stopped. Under heavy fire, my great-grandfather and his comrades had to maintain their posts, relaying orders for advances and calling for support. They worked in trenches filled with water, their focus absolute as explosions shook the ground around them. They were the steady, calm voice in the middle of the storm. Then came the battle that would be seared into the memory of every Marine who fought there. Peleliu. This was a place of unbelievable violence and savagery. The fighting was at close quarters, in a landscape of sharp coral ridges and fortified caves. The battle was supposed to be over in days, but it stretched on for more than 2 months. For the signalmen, it was a nightmare. They were constantly targeted. To do their job, they had to expose themselves to withering machine gun and mortar fire. They watched friends fall, yet they had to keep sending their signals. The survival of everyone depended on it. It was on Peleliu that the true meaning of courage was forged in fire. The final great battle of the war for the 1st Marine Division was Okinawa. This was the doorstep to Japan, and the fighting was the most intense of the entire Pacific campaign. The scale of the battle was immense, with massive naval fleets, air forces, and armies clashing. My great-grandfather, now a seasoned veteran of island warfare, was in the thick of it once more. He and his fellow signalmen were crucial in coordinating the complex operations between the land and sea forces. They endured kamikaze attacks, artillery barrages, and desperate enemy charges. Through it all, they kept the lines of communication open. They had seen the worst of war from one island to the next and had never faltered. For their incredible bravery and effectiveness during the brutal campaigns at Peleliu and Okinawa, my great-grandfather's unit, the 1st Marine Division, was recognized with the highest honor a unit can receive. They were awarded the Navy Presidential Unit Citation. This was not a medal for one man, but a testament to the collective courage and sacrifice of every Marine in the division. It acknowledged that they had faced extraordinary circumstances and had performed their duties with exceptional heroism. For the signalmen who had risked everything to keep the unit connected, this award was a profound recognition of their vital and dangerous work. It was a symbol of their shared resilience in the face of unimaginable horror. Individually, my great-grandfather didn't speak much of his medals, but they told a story of his long and difficult journey. He earned the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, with 4 bronze stars proudly affixed to its ribbon. Each star represented one of the major campaigns he had fought in: New Guinea, Cape Gloucester, Peleliu, and Okinawa. These were not just pieces of metal, they were markers of survival, representing places where he had faced death and had done his duty. He also received the World War II Victory Medal, a recognition shared by millions who had served in that global conflict. These honors were a quiet acknowledgement from a grateful nation for the years he gave to the cause of freedom. When the war ended in 1945, his service was not yet over. The world was still an unstable place, and experienced Marines were needed to help keep the peace. My great-grandfather and the 1st Marine Division were sent to China. Their mission was a complex one: to assist in disarming and repatriating the Japanese forces that still remained in the country, and to provide security during a time of great civil unrest. It was a different kind of duty, one that required discipline and diplomacy rather than open combat. He was part of a historic moment, witnessing the end of one era and the turbulent beginning of another in a foreign land. For his service during this critical post-war period, he was awarded the China Service Medal. This medal was given to service members who had performed occupation duties in China in the aftermath of World War II. It represented another chapter in his long journey, one that took him from the battlefields of the Pacific to the complex political landscape of post-war Asia. After nearly a decade of service, which had taken him halfway around the world and through some of the most significant events of the 20th century, my great-grandfather's time in the Marine Corps finally came to an end. He was honorably discharged in 1951, a decorated veteran of a long and arduous war. When my great-grandfather returned home, he was a different man than the boy who had left. He carried with him the unseen weight of his experiences, but he did not let it define him in bitterness or sorrow. Instead, he embodied the best qualities the Marine Corps had instilled in him: courage, discipline, and a profound sense of duty. He seamlessly transitioned back into civilian life, becoming a husband, a father, and a provider. He rarely spoke of the war, not because he was ashamed, but because he was a member of a generation that did not boast. They simply did what was required of them, and then came home to build the country they had fought to protect. He was what many would call a quiet hero. His heroism wasn't found in grand speeches or public accolades. It was found in his everyday actions. It was in the way he worked hard to provide for his family, the integrity with which he lived his life, and the quiet strength he showed in times of trouble. He taught his children and grandchildren the importance of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. He showed them that true strength is not about being the loudest person in the room, but about having a steady, reliable character. His legacy was not one of war stories, but one of unwavering principle and quiet dignity. His journey as a Marine signalman is a powerful reminder that heroes come in many forms. They are not just the generals or the famous warriors. They are the everyday men and women who do extraordinary things under pressure. They are the ones who perform the vital, often overlooked jobs that make victory possible. The signalman, keeping communications alive under fire, is a perfect example of this kind of unsung heroism. Without them, the larger battles could not have been won. Their courage was just as real, their sacrifice just as profound as any other soldier on the battlefield. They were the essential threads that held the fabric of the military together. Today, on June 18, 2025, it is more important than ever to remember stories like my great-grandfather's. We live in a world that can sometimes forget the sacrifices of the past. By sharing his story, we keep his memory and the memory of his entire generation alive. We honor their commitment, their resilience, and their quiet heroism. His life is a testament to the idea that ordinary people can rise to meet extraordinary challenges, and in doing so, leave behind a legacy of courage and honor that inspires their families for generations to come. He was a Marine, a signalman, a hero, and we will never forget him.